What are you doing?
I can't believe it! Guitar Max is here in my house. Pinch me, I must be dreaming.
Richard, look, I'm no different than you. You know, we're basically the same, only I have perfect hair, bulging muscles, and a signature guitar, and and I have an airplane too.
Well, when you put it like that. Hey guys, welcome back to the Bald Shredder channel. And no, your eyes did not deceive you. That was, in fact, Guitar Max. I was lucky enough to have Max stop by and let me interview him. We talked about everything: guitars, YouTube, hamsters, refrigerators, George Lynch, you name it, we talked about it. And our conversation was so long that I had to divide it up into 3 parts. So what you're gonna see today is part 1, and then I'm gonna put up part 2 and part 3 like a week apart. So if those parts are not up yet, keep checking back because they will be up soon enough. And I have to say a huge thanks to Max for coming here and putting up with all my questions and stuff. It was great, a lot of fun, really enjoyed it. Now after you guys watch all 3 parts and you're going, wait a minute, Guitar Max was there and you guys didn't actually play any guitars? All I can say about that is keep your eye on the Guitar Max channel. Alright guys, so without further ado, here is part 1 of my Guitar Max interview. So when you first moved to LA, because you're not from LA, so you relocated here at some point, did you have like the typical dreams of everybody that moves to LA? Like you're gonna join a band, you're gonna play live shows, you're gonna build up a following, you're gonna record your demo, you're gonna get it out to record companies, then you get signed, maybe make a video, and you go on tour opening for a big name band. Was that like the plan initially?
Yeah, pretty much, because like you said, I'm not originally from LA. I've lived here for a long time, but I'm from Seattle, or the Seattle suburbs originally. Mm-hmm. I grew up there, and I moved to LA about 2007. Mm-hmm. And yeah, when I moved down, there were different reasons I moved down, but right when I moved down, I realized, hey, some of the best guitar players in the world live in LA, so if I'm going to continue playing guitar, I have to really take it seriously. Mm-hmm. It was either that or I should just stop playing altogether, because I don't want to be like a bad guitar player in LA.
Right, yeah, a lot of competition.
Yeah, so much competition. But yeah, at the time, I was like, yeah, man, I want to join a band, I want to start my own band, go on tour, play arenas, all that stuff. And I did some of that. I had a solo band back in the day doing instrumental shred stuff, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I played in a thrash band called Death Riders, which is Neil Turbin, who's the original singer from Anthrax. Right, that was his band. I played with that band and a few other projects. Played in Hellion, which technically I'm still in the band, just the band hasn't done anything in a long time. And we did a tour across the US in that band. But it was like, it took me until about 2015 to where I was like, maybe YouTube is a good idea.
Right.
And it was kind of funny because 2008, right after I moved to LA, I did my first YouTube video. Mm-hmm. And it actually did pretty good. Mm-hmm. But at that time, I had no interest in that. It was just like a fun extra thing I did.
Yeah.
But it was like, no man, I want to be on the road. Forget
of course
playing in my bedroom.
Right.
For the camera. It had a stigma around it back then, especially. Yeah. Where it was like, well, real guitar players are out touring.
It still does.
It still does.
A lot of guys. Yeah.
But it's not nearly as bad as it used to be.
Yeah.
And so even though my early YouTube stuff, like it did pretty good, like I deliberately steered away from it. And I didn't come back to it until 2015. Mm. Yeah, but I mean, when I was like, I'm born in the 80s and I was a teenager in the 90s, right? And so all of that rock star idea was still really strong in my mind. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I want to play the arena with all the lights and smoke and pyro and go to the show in the limousine. Like that was what I was working towards. And it took a long time to kind of realize that that's not, not that it was ever really realistic, but it's really not realistic now. The industry has just changed so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it was more of a gradual thing and not like just all of a sudden you realize that times had changed or a shift in the focus away from what we were just talking about. It just took a while for you to kind of realize that you're not going to be on the major label and not out there touring, that things have changed as far as how people consume media, with the YouTube and all the social media and everything is streaming and downloaded, and it's just very different now than it was like even 10 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it was a gradual shift, and it wasn't one particular thing, but there were a handful of things that really reinforced what you're saying. A big one was when I had gained, I had a little bit of traction, and I was doing shows and doing some touring and that kind of thing, and I just started to meet a lot of other people who were doing that, like who had decades of experience touring and things like that. Meeting them, hearing their stories, learning things from them, and not to disparage them as people in any way, but it became really obvious that they weren't really that happy. After doing it for many, many years, there were a lot of things that they had sacrificed in their life in order to do that.
Yeah.
And it hadn't paid off the way they'd hoped.
You mean like financially, emotionally, or probably everything?
Probably mostly financially, honestly. Yeah. And it was like, I don't want to name people, and this is not to say that I'm, like don't name the guilty or something like that, but it's just, they probably don't like to think of themselves this way, but like there's one guy in particular, a drummer, he's a household name among rock musicians, played on legendary albums, all this kind of stuff with, top people and everything. And today he lives kind of like in a trailer, like out in the desert kind of thing. And he's still very well respected, right? And it's not that he ever really did anything wrong in particular. It's just that lifestyle and that sort of career path really didn't turn out the way he expected. And that was true of a lot of other people. So that was kind of a big turning point for me, where it was like, oh, hey, it is fun to do those things, but it depends on what else you want to do in your life.
Right.
As to whether or not that's going to be a good choice for you. And then around the same time, I was like, oh, hey, I can stay at home and sit in front of a camera and talk to, hundreds of thousands of people potentially.
Yeah.
And in some cases make more money doing that.
Right.
And that became obviously like, oh, that's a good idea. I think another thing that was much later on, but when Jared Dines was on the cover of Guitar World.
Yes, I remember.
I think that was kind of the first time where like a YouTube guy who was he's pretty much purely famous for being on YouTube. It's not like he was in a band before that was big or anything like that. When he was on the cover of Guitar World, and then like the next issue was like Eddie Van Halen or something like, it's like, okay, you can't, I feel like that moment went really far in getting rid of that stigma of being like, oh, just a YouTube guitarist or something like that. Yeah.
So you mentioned about your first video. So what were you initially thinking when you first started and you did your first few videos, and was it always the goal to be like a budget guitar review channel?
No, not at all, actually. The first few videos were like, I think a Kramer Stryker video review was one of the, I think that might have been the first one. And it was just genuinely, at the time, I knew there were a lot of people talking about that particular guitar, and there just wasn't, there were no videos about it. So I'm just like, this will be useful.
Was that a guitar you already had, or you got it because you knew you wanted to do a video about it?
No, I wanted it anyway, right?
Okay.
And then when I got it, I'm like, oh, I should make a video about this. And it was just like, one camera angle, built-in mic, like it was bad audio, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I just thought like, I know there's a lot of people interested in this guitar. It was back when the Music Yo website was a thing, and you could buy like all these Kramer guitars through there. And then the next few videos after that were kind of similar, where it was just like a piece of gear that I had anyway. And I thought, oh, people might find this interesting. And then it wasn't, the budget stuff didn't come in until much, much later. And it was really, the thing that really, you know, was like the light bulb moment for me was the first Firefly video I did.
Which one of the
semi-hollow.
What's that called? The semi-hollow, yeah.
Yeah. And I did that, and that was the first video I did that I would consider like went viral or something like that. I remember it was right around Christmas time, and I was visiting my in-laws, and I was like looking at the stats, you know, holy smokes, you know, because it was like, you know, it took off and everything. And then it was like, wow, that kind of makes sense when you think about it. Like, there's a lot more people that can afford a $200 guitar than a $2,000 guitar.
Yeah.
And and that kind of, you know, and I still, even today, I still like checking out not only budget guitars, right? I still like to get a variety of stuff, but I think at this point, I'm always going to be, you know, what's the latest, greatest affordable guitar? You know, there's just so many people interested in that.
So let's fast forward a little bit, and you're doing more and more of these guitar review videos and getting more and more videos, more subs, getting more and more successful. So there had to come a point when you went, okay, this can be my full-time job. I'm going to do this, and this is going to be good enough. Just talk about that a little bit, like how you made that decision. Was there any kind of like anxiety? Were you worried about it, or what were you thinking at the time?
Sure, yeah. Well, I remember this very clearly because it was when I left my day job with the decision that I was doing YouTube full time now. That was a key moment in my life.
Yeah.
You know, basically, like, I think my channel had gotten to about 35,000 subscribers when I was like, it became obvious that it was like, okay, there's the possibility of like a career or job here where I could do this as a full-time job. And I was thinking about it, but I was really nervous in that I didn't want to do it too soon, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, what if something goes, you know, what if something changes like with YouTube and like I can't monetize the videos anymore, or maybe I've gotten lucky with like a few videos and I'm not going to be able to sustain that. So 35,000 was when I was like, hey, I could do this as a job. It wasn't until double that. It wasn't until I was around 70,000, 75,000 subscribers where I actually did it.
So it wasn't like 1 month you made enough money that 1 month. That's as much money as I need to pay all my bills, so I'm ready to go full time. You wanted to make sure it was going to be consistent.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that was a huge thing. And when I did, like, I had this day job working at a company that kept track of music royalty payments. And it was sort of an interesting job, like the things you would learn, you know, with doing the work. But the day-to-day work was just like a boring desk job, you know what I mean? Like cubicle kind of thing. And, you know, nightmarish middle management issues and that kind of stuff. And so I remember it was like October or something like that, where I was planning, I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm absolutely sure this is a good decision, and I'm going to leave the job like at the end of the month. And then it was one of these things where like my boss like really pissed me off. And
that made it easier, right?
It made it so much, well, it made it easier, but I remember I basically left a couple weeks earlier than I was planning. And it was such a wonderful feeling, you know, because it was like, not only am I getting to kind of stick it to the man a little bit, right, with the job, but at the same time, I knew that I was leaving to do something better and more meaningful to me.
Yeah.
So it was a great thing. And then being able to do that full time, where I can make my own schedule, that opened up so many other things in my life, you know, becoming a pilot, you know, and being able to spend time with people otherwise I wouldn't have been able to spend time with. And that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a huge point for me. But yeah, in the beginning, I was like apprehensive about like, I don't want to rush it. You know, I want to make sure it's reliable before I made that jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Thanks.
So as a successful YouTuber, I'm sure you get offered all kinds of crazy stuff to review on your channel. Some music related, some not music related. Like, what's some of the weird stuff you've been offered?
Sure. Well, I get a lot of things that are sort of loosely connected with music or with playing instruments, and I'll get things like different kinds of software. Like I got one for an accounting software one time, and one time I did a video. This is 3 or 4 years ago, where I did accept one of these things, and it was jewelry. Right? It was like a jewelry website, and my pitch in the video was like, well, if you're on stage, you need to look cool, and some cool necklaces or a bunch of rings and stuff like that can help achieve that. And I was comparing it to Steve Vai, and if you want to look like Steve Vai, you need some cool jewelry. But that video bombed. Like that was one of my least or most poorly received videos. Like,
Were they
thumbs down.
mad? It was like you're doing a commercial for jewelry.
Well, it was a combination of that, and also sort of like, oh, people shouldn't judge you on how you look. Like there's that kind of stuff. Which is okay, whatever. But the thing that I guess the weirdest thing that I get, and I still get this a lot, is appliances. And so it'll be like refrigerators and toasters and ice makers and like juicers. And there was one company one time that they pitched it to me as in like, well, we know you don't really talk about appliances, but maybe you can talk about how you could use this refrigerator in your rehearsal studio. So they were at least trying to connect it to what I was doing. And there have been a few times where I told them that, like, yeah, I'll do it, if you pay me a ridiculous amount of money, to review your refrigerator or something like that. But they've never gone for it.
And they're like, nope.
Yeah, I don't even hear back from them. They don't even respond. Yeah.
So your wife never says like, hey Max, we could really use a new refrigerator here. How about doing that review?
Well, on the jewelry thing, she's like, well, can you get some jewelry for me? Like she wanted that, but it was, it wasn't that kind of jewelry. It was all like big, Viking rings.
Oh, yeah. Are there certain kinds of videos that you would like to do more of, but you kind of shy away from them because you think maybe the audience is not going to be very interested in that?
Yeah, it would be videos like the Impellitteri interview videos that I did. There are particular...
I watched all of those from start to finish, by the way. Come on, guys.
I think in some ways, talking to musicians, especially really experienced musicians, is some of the most valuable content that you can put out there for other musicians to watch. But those videos, like interview videos and stuff, or talking about like particular musicians and like things about their career, they get some of the least amount of attention, as some of the other videos.
This one's gonna get 1 million views,
Definitely.
right, everybody?
Definitely, yeah.
Can you remember, or can you think of one video that you did where you were sure it was not gonna get very many views, and you're just like, oh, okay, I'll put it up. Probably won't. A lot of people probably won't watch it, but then totally surprised you, and it got a lot of interest and a lot of views.
Yeah, there's a pair of videos that kind of comes to mind right away. So when Fender reissued the HM Strat, I did 2 videos talking about that guitar. The first video was the unboxing video. I didn't even play the guitar. I just took it out of the box and looked at it. Then the second video, I plugged it in, I played it, did the sound demos. The unboxing video did better than
that.
Than the real, than the video where I actually played the guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, the unboxing video got like 100 and something thousand views on it.
Wow.
And it's like one take, one camera angle, just like opening the box.
Yeah.
Take it out. I wasn't even doing like the, sawing it open or anything like that. It was just like a normal unboxing video, and that video was huge.
Well, I think that says a lot about like why people watch unboxing videos in general, not just guitars, but anything and everything, toy unboxing videos.
Yeah.
There's a sense of excitement of like, almost like you're the one taking it out of the box, and you're kind of sharing the excitement with the person who's taking it out, pulling off the paper, whatever, and it's like, whoa, and they kind of get some of that.
Yeah, but you would think that, I agree with you, but you'd think that at least everybody who watched the unboxing video would at least be curious, like, well, what does the guitar sound like, right? But it, like
You
the
would
second video
think.
did worse than the first one. I don't know.
Yeah.